work together, and we'll get through it together. So with that, I'd like to go ahead now and open it up to questions and answers. And as always, now, again, we're social distancing, right? So we're asking people to watch on the remote feed and send questions in ahead of time. So I've got a few questions here that I'm going to address. The first one is from Fred Knapp at NET News. What can you tell me about consideration being given to using NU dorms as quarantine space? One of the projects that we have at the state of Nebraska is looking at quarantine space. So we've already had this happen, actually, for example, with patient one. She exposed a healthcare worker who had elderly parents at home. The healthcare worker couldn't go home, so we found her a place to quarantine so that she wouldn't expose her parents. We expect there's going to be other cases like that, and so as part of our overall plan for responding to the coronavirus, we are looking at quarantine space, and we're working with a number of different issues. When we have more information on that, we will share that, but that is something that is a work in process right now. Second is from Ryan Murphy at Can EB. One of the big questions I have for the governor that I hope he can address this afternoon in light of all Panhandle schools closed until at least May 1st is what can be done to address working parents who have kids at home due to school closures. I'm sure there are plenty of parents who cannot take much more time off work while school would normally be in session. So what are they to do? Well, one of the things I think that we all need to do is think creatively about how we address some of these issues. One of the things that we know we've done with the 10-person rule is we've impacted daycares. And so we've asked them to limit, and we put out guidance on this from the state and the Department of Health and Human Services. We've asked them to limit it to 10 kids per classroom and to not have any of those kids mix in things like recess or a cafeteria at lunch or anything like that to be able to help do that. But still, even with that, we know that's going to be reducing the daycare capacity, so to speak, in the state of Nebraska. We've asked daycares to prioritize healthcare workers and first responders and public safety officers like our corrections officers. But we are also looking at other ways that we can expand that daycare capacity. One of the ways we're looking at that is working with churches to be able to get them engaged, and we certainly encourage any congregation across the state of Nebraska, please reach out to your members. Find out who is having challenges with this. See if there's a way that you can be helpful. We're going to be working to see if we can get some additional guidance out with regard to how churches can do it more formally, but you can still start right now by trying to find out who are the people, who are the families being impacted in your congregations. Also, we want to make sure that we're working with schools and so forth with regard to this, so there'll be other efforts that we have down the road with regard to how we expand that child care capacity going forward. So I know that it's impacting parents. Another thing parents can do is work together. I know actually one of my friends in Omaha, she is working with 4 other moms so that they rotate the kids around the house, rotate the kids between the houses every day of the week. So each parent only has to take 1 day off during the week, and that whoever the parent is monitoring it that day is making sure the kids are continuing to do their schoolwork. While our schools are operating without students right now, we are expecting schools to be able to work with their parents and their families to continue that education so that every child is prepared to move on to the next grade in the fall. And then my next question is from Bill Schammert from 1011 News, and it's related along the same lines. A massive financial burden for families is childcare. Many parents are being told to keep their kids at home, if possible, but also still being charged in the neighborhood of $1,000 a month for childcare they're no longer receiving. Daycares have to do this, otherwise they could go out of business. Is there any relief being discussed in this regards, either for parents or to subsidize daycares so they can give parents relief? I already kind of covered some of the steps that we are taking with regard to how we're addressing creating more daycare capacity. I'd also encourage those parents to work with your daycares, find other alternatives to be able to do it. The package the legislature is voting on today, in fact they passed as well just a little bit earlier today, is specifically around fighting the coronavirus and slowing its spread here in our state. That is the most urgent need, and that is what we are dealing with at this time right now. So with that, that's the questions I had sent in to me. So I will now take questions from the folks that are here in the audience, or you can also still text your 3 questions from KETV. Okay. Right, so I'll take that question first. So as you may recall, last week I briefed the legislature on a request from my office for $58.6 million